Ingram Smith, Bud Elliott, back again for another episode of the Nolecast. Bud, appreciate you carrying a couple episodes here recently. One we tried to do and just schedules multiple times didn't link up, but great to be able to connect again. You've got some questions, I think, from some of our Patreon listeners, some questions that we have just from our own kind of general friend base and group text and stuff like that. That at this point in our lives, is kind of a healthy barometer as to look and get an idea as to where some of the fan base, passionate and exceptionally passionate, may live emotionally. But hey, if we're going to talk about where people live, then there's no better way to start the podcast by thanking Chad and all the great work that he's done for our you and our listeners and 600 other individuals. So fantastic people there, Bud. You've worked with him directly. I believe you may be even working on a current project. You can give people as good of an idea as to what a great experience it is working with Chad as anybody out there.
I look. I mean, I'm sure Chad does a great job with everyone, but I think he gets a little extra excited for these Nolecast listeners. Like when he's we've talked about it. Like Nolecast listeners typically have awesome credit ratings, and they call. They want to talk a little ball, but also Chad just told me they're awesome to work with, and I guess we have a high value audience, which we knew. Like at some of these meetups, like yeah, man, these guys are successful folks. Listen to our show, and of course they are, right? Because you're choosing to listen to us. And you're choosing to go with the legendary team. Chad does a great job. 844 FSU Loans, 844 FSU Loans. You can also email them there, link in the show notes. But yeah, working on a new project with Chad, and I'm excited about it. And just awesome experience. So very, very excited.
So, where do we want to start tonight? Maybe the end of the portal activity.
I think so, but we always forget to shout baseball out. And we don't talk a lot of baseball on the show, so we do want to give FSU baseball a shout out. Taking 2 or 3 from Clemson over the weekend was really big. So excellent job there, including run ruling them on that pretty sweet walk off there on the final game of the series, 20-9. So we always put it on the rundown. And it's like, damn it, like the show went long. We've lost the lights. Uh-oh. Are you transforming into something here, or is this like legitimately your light went out?
Legitimately don't know what the hell just happened. Give me a second to try to put that together. 1 second, man.
Oh, but if you guys missed it, FSU baseball did win 20-9 over the weekend to finish off the series there against Clemson, which was pretty cool. And if they keep playing really well, they'll have a chance to host. So excited about that. It's a pretty fun team to watch. I mean, Arnold's obviously a stud, and they do hit the baseball pretty well. Pitching will be a little bit of a concern, probably a little more so now due to some injury stuff and maybe a couple guys a little bit less effective than you'd hope they would be at the beginning of the season. But it is still a pretty fun team to watch. And I think college baseball has gotten so much better than it was just a few years ago, probably due to the NIL and also due to the fact that Major League Baseball has actually shrunk the minor leagues by a pretty good bit. So there's just fewer spots for these guys to go to be stashed and developed in the minors as baseball. It's kind of wisened up a little bit. Like a lot of these guys can be developed by colleges, and we'll figure it out then. We're not really interested in being an 18-year-old business unless the kid is like Ken Griffey Jr. And I'm probably dating myself with that reference there. But anyway, I did see him. Do you realize that he actually robbed Albert Bell of a home run? And on the final day of the season, Griffey had 49 and Albert Bell had 48. And you can kind of trace it like right back to him scaling the wall and then pulling that one back to give himself the home run title. So kind of cool.
Maybe the fondest memory of my childhood is I pulled the Upper Deck Griffey Jr. Rookie card as a 6 or 7 year old, and it was a very kind of, for that generation, an iconic baseball card. And yeah, Ken Griffey Jr. was just different level player with maybe one of the most beautiful swings that I've ever seen. So
nice.
I believe he went straight from Cincinnati Moeller to the league. So no, he was not a college ball player.
Not normal. And also got to play a game with his dad in the majors, which is really.
I think they both hit. Didn't they hit home runs?
They did
in the same game.
Yeah,
I mean that's Jesus, dude. Yeah,
talk about like things that'll never happen again. Probably that.
What else I think we just, and we'll get back to Florida State athletics as well, but kind of for that generation that I think we just didn't take proper appreciation of is dual sport athletes. Talking about stuff that's not going to happen again. I mean, not just Deion Sanders and Bo. I mean,
Ryan Jordan.
Jordan. I mean, do you know who Brian Hunter is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a guy that was legitimately playing strong safety for the Falcons on Sunday and center field for the Braves, 6 weeks later. I mean, it was just, um, I don't know. It was a special time where you could do two sports and just some crazy athletic individuals during that generation. So,
Wild. And I'm like, just a little bit less specialization.
yeah.
Dude, to shout out the T-ball Yankees, the team I coach who advanced. We're now 8-0-1 on the year, and since we beat the Braves on Saturday, means we actually are in the bye, and we do not have to play this upcoming Saturday. So excellent work there. We actually did not have the lead for one of the first times all season, and the kids rallied, and so 17-15. Not a lot of defense.
No, college baseball is exceptional. I mean, I really find myself falling, back into love with college baseball. It is one of the few things I'll turn the SEC network on just because you can catch Kentucky versus Ole Miss or whatever. And you're like, yeah, it's pretty fun. I do think NIL has played a large role in that. You don't just as easy to go play 3 years in Oxford as it is to, immediately go to single A or double A or something like that. And it's yeah, whatever they've done. And, I think again, we're going to talk about Florida State. This is just some kind of macro sports stuff. I think baseball's done a real good job in editing the game and it's been kind of a 10-year prospect. But to think about, we don't have the Nomar Garcia Pars of the world. You don't. It's just the game flows better, and it has to in today's day and age, and that's filtered down through the sport. And college baseball is always special and wildly passionate in this part of the country. And no, just give Lincoln and his staff an incredible and when I say that they've done real well on NIL, I'm not crediting myself for the Battles In or whatever. We don't work with them. I'm not saying that, but Link has had vision when it comes to this. Has had an exceptional vision when it comes to when to approach players, and they've built a roster that is remarkable, man. And as we get further and further into NIL, we'll see how how things work. But I mean, Florida State legitimately has a left-handed starting pitcher that might be the number one overall pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And that's credit to you, credit to everybody that's been involved in that process. They've done a great job of fielding an exceptional competitive roster. That's a lot of fun to watch.
So, speaking of like baseball getting a lot more exciting and being a product of staying power, one, totally agree. I was in Biloxi a couple weeks ago, and the amount of people like around casino bars that are just like locked in on not playoff, just regular SEC baseball and SEC Network is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a real somewhat viable TV product. Now, granted, like that's the market you would expect to see it in. Like college baseball is huge in Mississippi, but and obviously it's really close to LSU territory as well. Two, like in some ways, are you familiar with the Savannah Bananas product? And we are getting FSU here in a second. Like, I'm not
sure, yeah. Absolutely.
So in some ways, the Savannah Bananas are like a social commentary on how baseball was played. There's a really good 60 minutes you can watch on this where the creator of the Bananas, who I guess still owns them like fully, like the guy like never sold, which is pretty nice. He was like, I just took all the things that I found boring about baseball and like made them illegal in our game, which it's a production obviously, but there's some baseball like product in there. For instance, I guess you have to try to run to second base if you take a walk, and it's like a faster game. Like I wonder if that happens nowadays because they have, as you mentioned, like they've sped it up. There's a pitch clock. Like you stay in the batter's box. Like we're not, we're not powerlifting here in between each pitch.
Right.
Like the one Dodgers guy who like huff around the mound and do like breathing exercises.
Right. Yeah.
Just so he could throw 100.
I'm not doing that. No, it's the evolution of sport's been interesting. I don't always look. I love emotion, and I certainly chirped when I played sports and had a lot of fun with it. I don't know that we necessarily need to like throw our bat in the air 20 feet in the air after every home run and stuff like that. But it's the sport's a lot of fun.
Home run, dude.
Oh yeah, yeah. and Florida State fans, and I've always said this on the podcast, you know, the baseball team, obviously all of Florida State teams are supported by the people of Tallahassee, and you know, Florida State's fortunate to have the support that they do locally, but the baseball team in particular is almost like Tallahassee's minor league sports team, or you know, I don't know that I'm stating what I'm trying to say perfectly here, but it's been great to be able to go and watch what Lincoln and that program have done, and just very likely chance of hosting a regional. I would think potentially a super regional, depending on how the end of the year plays out. You pay attention to college baseball polls more than I do, but in the one that I saw today, they're ranked the second ranked team in the country. Um, you know, there's other polls that have them other places, as I understand, but no, baseball team, something to watch.
Absolutely. All right, let me ask you this. I've had several questions about this. We've had a couple Patreon questions, patreon.com/Nolecast. How much should we be reading into Florida State's late portal push? Like, Ingram, does this mean that they don't like their roster? Are they freaking out? Like they looks like they've offered a lot of guys. They brought in a lot of guys on visits. Like, what should we be making of this like late portal push?
Sure. Here's what I would say. You know, obviously, anytime you take somebody, you do it for a reason. But you know, as I understand it, the most informative parts of spring practice occurred very early. So I don't. It's not like, oh my gosh, they got to the end of spring and they thought, oh, we need three new position, or you know what I'm trying to say. I mean, you were so
Yeah.
you accumulated so many injuries so quickly from just the you know general public conversation surrounding practice that you know I think most of the lessons, most of the information that was garnered from spring was garnered early. So I don't know necessarily that you know spring provided some new informational ability to then go and have this you know flourish here at the end. I think part of it is opportunity. You know, some guys jumped in at the end of the portal that they had previous relationships with, and um, you know the portal's a funny animal. It's a lot of it's based on timing and who needs what and when, and you know if some of the maybe 5 or 6 schools out there that really do have an unlimited playbook or playbook, pay checkbook. Thank you, because that's a modern reference. Have a have unlimited resources, then yeah, that's you know that's going to be challenging if you're the other 130 college football teams. But I think they got some nice pieces. Really like the defensive back out of Houston. Um, yeah, I think the running back here they took, it's not I'm not trying to compare him to Trey Benson, but if that kid's healthy and you know, that's the type of running back I think you would want to add to this roster. This roster needs another, you know, 6'2", 208-pound guy that can carry the rock and be aggressive with it. So I think that's a good fit. And, you know, obviously you think you have a really special talent coming in from Leesburg, Georgia, when we talk about the running back position. But you know, if you've got a guy that can help carry the load there with the recent addition from the Oklahoma kid, I think that's nice. I think the wide receiver from Carolina gives you
Oh, Blackwell.
a
Yeah.
little bit of an addition to a unit that probably needs one. And yeah, the kid from USC, I think are all solid additions. I do.
I mean, look, like
I'm not telling you you're going to be all American, all conference, whatever. It's not, you know what I'm saying when I
right.
say that. I just think for when you are able to add these guys to your roster, I think that you know I understand the fan base is very frustrated, and we can get to that in a little bit, either frustrated or apathetic, depending on you know where you are. But I wouldn't just. I mean, you got three quality players here for you know when you got them at the end of the portal. I I think it was nothing but a good final you know 4 or 5 days for Florida State, and I would imagine that absent some you know wild occurrence that they're probably done. So
What's the harm?
yeah, yeah,
What's the harm
much more
of
succinctly
adding
stated
some
than
guys?
my 90 seconds of rambling. Well done.
Like, I mean, that's kind of what like a lot of my buddies have texted. Like, I was like, guys, I don't know who you're listening to, but I don't think any of us have hyped this team as, you know, like significant chance of contending for the conference or for the playoff. I've said on this show, like I think they behaved in the offseason like their goal is to survive and not get fired, right? And that probably means like you better make a bowl. You'd be a lot better served to make a bowl a little easier than going in that final weekend, right? Needing to. If you win 7, if you can win 8, I mean, I think 8 would be fairly big accomplishment for this roster. It's not saying you should lower your standards. It's just obviously you're coming off 2-10, and I strongly believe you don't have the money to make a firing right now. Otherwise, Norvell would have been gone at 2-10. Like, and that's not. I like Mike Norvell. He's always treated me nice. Like every time I see him, just nice dude. And I don't think he's necessarily a bad coach, right? I think he's made some missteps, and he also probably like some badly timed missteps plus some bad luck at the same time is how you get 2-10. Honestly, like I don't think it's all skill or all luck.
I think Mike has had incredible amounts of concentrated luck on both sides of the spectrum. I think it's very fair to say.
It's a lot of like, 3 for 3 with three home runs and then 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Like some balance may be better served there. I mean, do I know if Sawcheck's going to be any good? No, I kind of put in that Squirrel White category, right? Like if Squirrel White gets healthy, we've seen some nice proof of concept. He's a nice player. If he doesn't, cool, right? Like I don't think Oklahoma put up a huge fight to keep Sawcheck. Obviously, they went out and got Jaden Ott from Cal, and like Ott's a pretty damn good back. He was available, and that offense looks like it's probably going to be better than FSU's this year. They didn't go 2-10 last year. They actually finished, fairly strong, beating Alabama there in Norman. So you got a little more momentum. It's hard to get guys to come join a 2-10 roster, especially if maybe the staff doesn't have the best recruiters on it, which I feel like is probably the case here. Boatwright, not super excited about it, but again, like what's the harm, right? Hasn't played for USC. That's probably an indictment in and of itself because USC's defense has been hot trash since he's been out there. So like, how can you not get on the field there? But actually, safety has been one of the spots for USC that's actually been fairly good. They had a pretty damn good guy there last year. So, okay, fine with that. I do think Wilson at corner helps you a lot, probably. Like that's the one that I was like, yeah, it's not worth a win, but it does make me kind of say, okay.
Yeah. You tell me you're rolling with him, Q and Jabril.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid, man. Pretty solid 3.
I'm also kind of like, when I look at this schedule, I think there's a major drop off between the projected team quality between the 4th hardest game and the 5th hardest game. Like major. Who do you think the 5th hardest game on this schedule is?
Maybe your road trip to NC State, something like that.
And I'm not sure that Virginia won't be better than NC State this year.
Yeah, your 2 Fridays is what immediately came to mind.
Now, I mean, look, I've got a little insider info here, but I'm about 30 summer school tapings deep now. So if my voice is lacking, I did have to coach T-ball to a bye and then rip off 30 summer schools in 8 days. So it's been a couple recordings here. I mean, Virginia's spending some money now. I don't know where they found it, but they do have some cash. NC State, I'm not totally
they do
sure
in football and basketball as well. They're going in on the new with Odom, the new coach there.
Did you know that Virginia Tech, who's on this schedule, I believe they lost 7 undrafted free agents in addition to the guys who got drafted and the couple studs they lost to the portal.
This
is kind of something I track for some of these lower, like, I don't want to call them a lower level team, but they're not in Ohio State. Like basically for all the schools where UDFAs, undrafted free agents, where they might matter, right? Like they could miss them and can't just replace them easily. If you're Ohio State or you're Texas, you're like UDFA. God,
yeah.
How do we miss on that?
Thanks for the memories.
Yeah, right. So I mean, they lost a lot. NC State lost just 3. Vatek lost 7. Which is, pretty decent bit. FSU, and this is as of Friday. So if anybody signed over the weekend, but typically your studs are going to sign pretty quickly after the draft. So I'm kind of comfortable running this data. FSU lost 6. I mean, I think we discussed this schedule. To me, it's if those top 4 play to their potential, you're probably not beating them. Said probably, not guaranteed. But I mean, pick the worst out of those 4: Clemson, Alabama, Florida and Miami, they're still like at least a touchdown favorite on a neutral field, if not double digits over everybody else on your schedule.
Mhm.
So
this brings up an interesting question, but I literally, poor habitual speaking there, but have stopped listening to a lot of Florida State media the longer and longer that I've been involved with the battles in, and that's nothing against Florida State media. It's just I don't have time, and I've got to prioritize that of what I have.
you also could just text these guys if they're your friends. You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
true, I
like
can.
if
I,
you're
I
on a
have
group text,
confidence that a couple guys will take my calls. Yes.
yeah. Like
Longer, longer.
I'll talk to Cameron sometimes or Sinone, and I'll be like, I know you guys do great shows, but also like if I need to, like, I'll just text you, right? Like, you know.
I was found myself driving through South rural Texas, which is quite the place to find yourself driving through. And was listening to a episode of Headlines for the first time in a long time, and they had a question about what would be a more important win, Alabama or Clemson. Um, I can certainly see the argument that if you think this team's highest ceiling is somehow that they get into the playoff, that yes, Clemson is tied to that. I personally don't think the question's even worth stating. I mean,
Totally
it's
agree.
Alabama. It's Alabama. It's
Yes.
like because of the stadium, because of 2-10, because of the fact that you have the 2 games afterwards that are, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm not. What is it? Texas A&M Commerce and uh,
I know, sir. It is now East Texas A&M. They renamed it.
okay, East Texas A&M and
Kent State.
Kent State. Yes,
Kent State, who fired their coach over credit card debt.
Oh, really?
I believe. Yeah, it's a weird story. Actually,
Okay.
reading it, I kind of feel bad for the guy. I mean, obviously,
Okay.
but like, I'm not really sure how this happened. And then some kind of like home renovations dispute. I think it was. There's a lot of stuff. I don't want to go in like more.
Sure.
And but yeah, it was interesting.
4 of your first home games are going to be played by what, October 3rd or something like that. I'm just talking about the ultimately Bud and I have been talking about naming the stadium for 5 or 6 years now. You've got to be able to have more than 6 games a year played in that thing. You've got to be able to use it for monster trucks and concerts and everything. I'm not being critical of the stadium renovations. Ultimately, that's going to be paying dividends for 10 years or so. But oh my gosh, it could pay richer immediate dividends. If you win that Alabama game and you have a full stadium for A&M Commerce or East Texas A&M and Kent State, and you've got this fan base excited again and not, deciding, who's the biggest loser on the message boards every day and everything. I mean, it's Alabama, y'all. And financially, perception, everything. Yes, it would be great to see Florida State somehow make it into the playoff this year. I don't give me the first win and everything that would come with it.
Easily.
In fact, I don't mean to be hyperbolic, Bud, but from a macro perspective, I think you could argue that Alabama's the most important football game that Florida State's played in over the last 10 or 15 years that wasn't either for a championship or to go to a championship.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, I'm going to throw this one at you. So from the program perspective, I agree. Is it the most important to this coaching staff?
No.
From their perspective,
from a program perspective and from a financial perspective, you
Yes.
need the stadium to pay immediate dividends. You
Right.
do. Like I said, that thing's going to be paying off for 10 years, 20 years. What I was trying to say originally is that Bud and I have been talking about the naming of the stadium, and dude, it is so limiting if you've only got 6 Saturdays a year to try to sell to a Hyundai. I'm just pulling who Georgia Tech has here, or some of the other deals that have recently been announced as far as naming rights of college stadiums. And obviously, anybody that buys those rights is going to be buying them because of Florida State football. But you've got to have 20 other data points to point to people. You've got to have concerts that your name's going to be on. You got to have monster truck. You got to have whatever you have. And the stadium, in order to host events like that, has to be going through the type of renovation that it is right now. So That's kind of my
Short-term,
longer explanation of where I'm going. But financially, you need Mike Norvell to do well. You do. You don't
yeah.
want to circle around a conversation surrounding a buyout. You just don't. Alabama's a very important football game, and you don't. I'm not obviously. This is a program that prides itself on winning championships, winning things that matter. You need to be competitive in that football game. I'm not saying it's okay to lose a football game, but you need I don't know that it has to be Notre Dame 2021 all over, or was that 20? What year was that, Bud? I'm sorry.
When they did what now?
The opener against Notre Dame, where you lost, but you were applauded off the field because they played so well.
21, right?
21, yeah.
I
You need
think.
to play well against Alabama. You need to show well. It's wildly important.
Yeah, I agree. For the overall health of the program, I totally agree. We won't know it in the moment. Like, there's a chance Bama's the best team in the country. I don't think it's a great chance, but I think they have a massively improved secondary. The receiving core is easily the best you'll see all year. And obviously, like, you have Castellanos, he really can't throw. So, like, you're not going to be able to simulate what they do in practice. So that's good. Now, granted, you run a new scheme that they will not have really seen from this team. They've seen plenty of Malzahn stuff, but the guys who coach Bama now weren't at Bama when Malzahn was playing there, right? And like, weird stuff does happen in week one. It does. That's not like, I don't love banking my hopes on weird stuff happens in week one. I understand how just kind of like soft factors that sounds, but I just don't think you have, like, do you have any player on this team who would start at Alabama? Maybe if he's trying hard, Darrell Jackson. You could tell me Deuce starts like over Jeremy Bernard. I could buy that. So
Yeah, that's yeah.
I mean,
I just went through the entirety of the roster. I think you're probably right. I mean, they still do have one of the most elite rosters in the country. There's
yeah,
no
like
no
Mike
doubt
Norvell
about it.
recruits a totally different caliber of body type and athlete than Alabama does. It's not really all that close. So from the program standpoint, from the business standpoint, I totally agree with you. I think the most important game for this coaching staff, and I think their goal with the way they went about this thing is don't get fired. I think it's that Virginia game. Because if you lose that, you're probably starting 2-3, and then it gets rough, right? I mean, you got Pitt at home coming off the Miami game. Like, that's probably not well attended. Then you go on the road at Stanford. Are people going to show up for Wake?
I mean, the road at Stanford's probably a 10 o'clock football game.
Right.
You're playing. You also, we're talking. Another reason
It's a
I'm
standalone
talking.
game, by the way, Friday night. So the whole nation will be watching if you come out and you play like crap and don't look prepared.
It's a what?
It's a standalone game. Remember, it's a Friday game.
Yeah.
So
You got two of those. You got two, and then you've just, for relevancy purposes, you need to show well against Alabama. You can fall off. Look, you're Florida State football. You're not falling off the map. That's not what I'm trying to say. But you've got some. This is a little bit of a strange schedule. You got multiple Friday night games. You got a West Coast game that's probably going to be a 10:05 kickoff or something like that. Yeah. So very interesting. Very interesting year to look forward to.
And I think you got some winnable stuff in the back end, by the way. Like, I'm not convinced Pitt's good. I'm definitely not convinced Stanford is good, given what they lost. I mean, Wake's excited about their upgraded tight end room. Okay. Hokies, they had to shut the quarterback down due to injury stuff in the spring, and he wasn't real good last year. And they had a real hard time hiring offensive defense coordinators this offseason. If you paid attention to that, like, you think it took a while to hire Herb Hand in Tallahassee because they were getting, probably turned down by some guys they had ranked over him. Vatek was like extreme of that on both sides of the ball. Like, they ended up with Montgomery, Philip Montgomery on the offensive side, which Norvell's pretty familiar with, and I guess people have mixed opinions. And defensively, that took forever. So I think they're in trouble. I don't think that they've upgraded much at all. But you got to get there.
Yeah,
You
you got to
got
get there.
you got to get to that second half of the schedule, and the noise is going to be pretty loud if you lose that Virginia game
Hmm.
on national TV. People don't want to hear Virginia's improved. I actually think they kind of are because, like as you just said, and we've been saying, they have some more money. They don't want to hear 2-3 going into the bye week, and you got to play Pitt, Stanford, Wake. Like they're just not going to notice
Yeah.
because then.
Well, and from the financial perspective, you're absolutely right. If you lose that Virginia game and then you get another home game, it's important, a very important year. So
Don't lose Virginia for sure. I mean, obviously, like don't get hammered by Alabama. Uh, we'll see what happens on that. One thing that we do know is that we've had like 10 people go to Congruity already with our relationship with those guys, and they've done a nice job providing payroll solutions, HR, health insurance. Congruity at congruityhr.com. It's congruity at congruityhr.com, and I'm sure they'll continue to provide and service those existing clients as well. So make sure you guys hit us up or hit them up and let us know how that goes. So. You wanted to talk about apathy. I think that's actually a pretty good topic for tonight. Unless you want to do a very, very deep dive continued on the portal, but I'm just like, spring portal is.
um, I think that Florida State fans have had such a crazy emotional experience, whether you want to date it to from December 3rd, 2023, or really, you had a slow build up to that of what 19 games in a row that you won. I I've just been thinking about this a lot recently, from both an anecdotal perspective and obviously I've been fortunate enough to be able to interact with the members of the Battle's End, and I'm you and Jeff and Brendan are friends of mine, and I hear their perspective as far as their listeners or their readers. Or I don't know that this fan base even processed 2-10 while it was happening last year, man. And I'm not, look, people on message boards are angry. We were all disappointed. It was a horrible year. I'm not suggesting that otherwise, but I think as a fan base, like the large aspects are almost disassociated from it, and then and are not until like now or after Christmas, really, or into February and March, people are like, "Wait a minute, we went freaking 2-10 last year, man. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous." I think a lot of the angst, frustration, and real anger of the fan base, both because of the job that Mike had done and the staff had done, and the credit that they had garnered. And as a fan base, I don't think there's ever been a fan base that's had the ride that Florida State's just had. That's had
No.
the ups, the downs, their hearts ripped out. I mean, I can certainly.
Like Oregon State coming like a game away from playing for the Pac-12 title, and then they're like, boom, by the way, you're a G5
Right.
team.
Yep.
Is probably the one I would point to. Like that's kind of close.
That is a good one, but
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I
no, I mean,
I did summer school yesterday, so I was like,
yeah. Bud, the cheating ass summer school guy, all his information. You saw a coach that you weren't sure of lead you to 19 wins. You saw a coach that a lot of people took a while to have grow on him, become the national coach of the freaking year. You saw a kid who didn't sign with Florida State out of high school, but for all intents and purposes was a organically developed kid from West Palm who worked his ass off, turned into one of the best quarterbacks in the country, suffered a ridiculously gruesome injury in a game that, obviously football's football, but to think that you're going to lose your quarterback against North freaking Alabama is hard to wrap your mind around on I almost said some real words there, on freaking senior night. I mean, it just that whole situation, and Jordan retiring recently is certainly top of mind for a lot of us.
exactly.
It's just been a crazy ass experience to be a Florida State football supporter over the last 2 years, and I think a lot of people are just kind of coming to terms with some of the the frustrations that they have from last year, and whether that leads itself into general empathy, whether it leads itself to some of the fan base being like, wait a second, what the hell is going on with recruiting? This is strange. Like, I think a lot of different things are kind of being processed right now by this fan base, and it's natural, and it's just going to happen. And by August, I'm pretty sure we're all going to be very excited for Florida State football again.
I mean, how can you not be? Right? Like now, okay, don't answer that because there are some reasons why maybe you wouldn't be, but like it's not a religion, but it's close for a lot of folks. Like
Mhm.
that's what you build your social calendar around. What are you going to start doing? Kayaking? No, like you guys all know, you're going to sit around, watch Florida State, probably complain and moan more than you'd like to that we had during the dynasty era. Drink beer, whatever you want to have, and like do it again next Saturday too, most likely. Now, a little bit less well attended, like that. That is such a long drive to Tallahassee. To your point of why that Alabama game is so important. I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, man. Like I definitely think that like football is not, it's not unbreakable, but you're kind of testing the limits of this, right? It just
Mhm.
with the
Yeah.
craziness that has happened, and yet you still see the passion. Like everybody wants this thing to come back so bad. Now, obviously, they don't know if it will. I think there's kind of mixed opinions on whether they think Norvell is the right guy. I mean, I think it definitely behooves you to have it happen under him, financially. But like, how much apathy are we seeing? Right? I bet from a fundraising perspective, I bet I would have a hell of a time selling somebody, hey, this player is the difference between 7 wins and 8 wins. Like if I was a big booster and you hit me with that, I'd be like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna sit this one out, man. To be honest, I don't give a damn if we go to the Pop Tarts Bowl or the Cheez It Bowl. Okay. It's the same shit to me. So, like, if it's like, hey, this guy, this Keon Coleman
Mhm.
is the
Yeah.
difference between like getting us from here to there. Like
Yeah.
this is if we get in, we can win the whole thing.
What if I told you he's going to score 3 against LSU? Is that
Right.
something you're interested in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I mean, I think they're in such show me mode. I wonder like if that comes on his apathy too. It's like, dude, I'm not going to like open my heart to the Knowles and get burned again.
No.
Like we both feed in, and until they show me at least like some competency, at least they show me like we're actually playing hard. We look like we give a damn, which last year they didn't.
Mhm.
And that is, I mean, that was a stark departure from what Norvell teams had done in the past.
Yeah.
They had
Yeah.
typically played hard for him, um, even through some bad times. So, I mean, if they do go, like FanDuel right now has them what 6.5 juice under, so they think 6-6. Like I ran my numbers, I got 6-6 too, but like not with any high confidence level, not confidence level in the team. Just like I mean, there's a whole lot of variance here on the schedule,
Yeah.
a whole lot.
I think, I think a lot of it comes into how bought in, focused are you for that back half of the schedule? How,
Yeah,
where are you on that part of it that you can really, and that's kind of a theme that we've talked about over, and that's more a macro theme in college football right now, is, particularly with NIL, the portal, and everything else. Like how bought in how bought in is your roster on November 1st? That's going to be wildly indicative of what the final product looks like. So yeah, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting season. But yeah, I mean it's I think you've got some really nice pieces on your roster. I do think that Deuce is as good of a fit for what you're going to ask Tommy Castellanos to do. And if Squirrel's healthy and you can stretch the field, then yeah, this offense with some of the pieces that you added on the offensive line and what Gus has historically done with running the football, and I've been not bashed. Yeah, I've been in love with Usman Chroma since the first highlight tape I ever saw. Okay, I mean that dude's going to be something special. It's going to be you want the anecdote to apathy. Freaking let Chroma have 7 carries for 59 yards against Alabama or something like that. I mean, we'll see what happens. But you got a special football player at a position in an offense that can feature a special football player as well as kind of any system can. So I have some, and I think you did. I mean, look, no shit, Sherlock. You can say this for every position, but particularly along the offense line. If these guys are healthy, if the kid from Wake and the kid from Vandy and Pettis is healthy and bought in, and they do, from what I can tell, they do like the kid from UCF a lot as well.
Medley, yeah.
Yep, he added some nice pieces along the offensive line that in this conference can win you some football games.
Yes.
So it's not, I know people are frustrated. I know people are angry, and for whatever reason, some of that anger has had a little bit of a fused, like a time delay release on it or something like that. And I get it, but you've got some exciting things in the pipeline as well.
I would agree with that, and I do think that like if you like somebody asked me the other day on Patreon like can you paint a picture of how this works with Norvell? And I was like, man, shoot, I'm gonna need a little more time, but I think that's a pretty good episode. Actually, like hypothetically, like,
Sure.
it's probably like its own episode. You know, like maybe you do go 8-4 and you know play like you probably slip up one, but maybe you steal one of the four that we've identified as probably the tougher four on the schedule, and you maybe give somebody else a scare or something like that. I think that's and maybe you become an attractive transfer destination again.
Mhm.
I don't know. I I'll kind of put a pin in next. I do think it could be an interesting episode. One thing I think that, or go ahead.
I'll say this. I think that it's like you have some things happen and you have players flash in big games that make other players want to play with them. You're gonna have to be competitive from an NIL perspective, all the things that everybody knows, right? But that I can't stress to you how important the Florida State game of 2022 was to some of the pieces that you added to the roster. How many kids watched that game and decided, dude, I want to play with Jordan Travis. I mean, like you need a win like that, to where either the system shows itself or Chroma runs for 220 yards against Florida, and you got some guards and tackles that are excited about blocking for a guy like that, whatever, or wide receiver that knows that he's going to be able to get open because you've got a rushing attack, whatever happens. But you've got to have players go to places because of NIL. They go because of past relationships out of recruiting. They go to but they also want to play with good players in good situations that are going to feature them well. And that is the one ingredient that I would suggest that you add to that to that list is that you have some high profile games where the highest profile guys within this program play at a level that is featured and makes it attractive for either other players to come play there or players of that position who know that they can feature in your system.
I that makes perfect sense to me. Something else that I think we probably need to talk about here, and our buddy Matt Thompson from Madison Social, Township, etc., does an awesome job of sponsoring the show. One of our OG supporters of the Nolecast. I had not sent this to him, but I think he would really crack up. Are you familiar with? And I know you don't always want to talk specific recruits, but this is legitimately hilarious. Are you familiar with Isaiah Williams,
No.
linebacker out of Florida? He has now made, I believe, 5 commitments before his senior year of high school. 5, dude. This is. We need to bring back the Willie Williams diary on this one. For those of you guys who are not familiar, Willie Williams, the diary on the Miami Herald that he ran for his recruitment as he visited Florida State and Florida and Auburn and Miami was spectacular. So November of 23, commits to Louisville. About 11 weeks later, decommits from Louisville.
Okay.
And then did not make a commitment for about 3 months, and he committed to Syracuse, and then he decommitted from Syracuse about 4 months later. So these are going longer. Then he commits to FSU in last year, September, and then decommits in November. So kind of hopped off the train as the train just fell off the tracks. Then he commits to Florida in March of this year. So he really went an impressive 5 months with 4 months without committing anywhere. And then he lasted about 7 weeks with the Gators before flipping to Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, good.
So What's the over under on total verbal commitments made by Isaiah Williams before? And also, this is spelled Izayia.
Okay. Okay. I
So
think
also could
had I,
be
yeah,
Isaiah. And I have seen this kid. He actually is really athletic and like a legitimately good player. Um, what's the over under on commits here?
8.
I was gonna say 7.5. So that's pretty good. And what's the odds he ever portals?
I have followed
98%.
recruiting religiously since I was about 9 years old. Sorry. I can't think of anybody that's been 5 commitments in May of their senior year. No, that is truly unprecedented. So,
Junior year, sir.
or junior year, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a whole year to
Yeah,
go.
they're rising as they enter their rising senior summer. They've already made 5 commitments. That is I'm sure recruiting existed before 1993 or whenever it was I started following it, but that is to my knowledge, uncharted waters.
I mean, we're literally mathematically committing, decommitting every half year.
There was a kid in South Georgia 10 or 15 years ago. Didn't he committed to like Clemson, Florida State, Florida. I'm blanking on the name. That's one of the only guys that I can think of that's somewhat similar. I mean, even a guy like Dalvin. Dalvin was committed to a couple different schools, but 5. I mean, 5 at this point in the process. That's unique.
So Dalvin was what? Miami at one point, definitely Clemson, definitely Florida.
Yeah.
Right. And then obviously Florida State in the end. Was Dalvin ever Miami? Because I know Yearby went
I didn't
to
think
Miami.
I thought his only public commitments were Florida and Clemson.
So if you guys recall, this is way down the rabbit hole, but I think Nolecast, it's May.
And we're 47 minutes in. If you're listening, you
so there was a kid named
nobody
Joe
hates
Yearby.
being reminded of Dalvin Cook. I can promise you that.
Do you remember Joe Yearby? So he was at Central with Dalvin, and Dalvin did not play did not play his freshman year for Central. He actually played Optimist ball, which is a highlight tape if you have. I really want to see freshman year Dalvin Cook still destroying Optimist League ball in Miami, because I mean, as a sophomore, he was quite good for Miami Central, and they were playing 8A ball in Florida. So maybe he didn't commit to Dalvin Cook. So it was Dalvin, and then who was the receiver out of Homestead? Ermon Lane? Because Rudolph was in that class too, wasn't he?
Yeah, Rudolph was at Palm Beach Gardens.
Devontae Phillips was in the prior class, I guess. I'm trying to find some of these websites to track the stuff are not quite as good. Like they get redesigned, and I work for one, obviously, but I can't find his commitment timeline. What year was he recruited in? 20. He was a 2014 signee, right? Because Pinder gets hurt against Syracuse and Dalvin comes in.
Yeah.
Okay. And that game was definitely in the Dome, because 2013 he wasn't on the 13 team. That would be unfair. So he unofficialed, best I can find, he unofficialed to Miami. Then he committed to Clemson. This may be an incomplete timeline, by the way. And then he committed to Florida, or flipped to Florida. Would that have been Charlie Strong getting him on an OV to Texas, by the way? Interesting. He took an OV to Arkansas, which I think is probably after the Alex Collins thing. Like for a little while, Arkansas had a bit of a South Florida hookup.
Mm-hmm.
And then he flips to FSU on New Year's Eve. I do remember that.
Was that one of the bowl games?
I don't remember the bowl game, but I do remember we were standing outside the media scrum after Central beat Armwood, and Dalvin ran all over Armwood, and I thought everybody knew that he was already like done and dusted to Florida State, but this one Florida reporter kept asking him all these questions about UF. And I was like, we're kind of looking around like, oh, he doesn't know.
I remember
Okay.
you telling me this.
And Dalvin's getting
12
like
years
kind of
ago.
annoyed because like the rest of us just want to get our quotes. We know he's flipping. Hold it. Get out of there.
Mhm.
Right. And so this guy kept peppering him with Gators questions. And, anyway, stuff turns around pretty fast in the sport of college football. Most of your big time programs don't stay down forever. Florida went like 4-8 one of those years. And well, I guess they actually have not fully bounced back. But anyway, bad example, but it does happen. Like teams do bounce back. I mean, Ohio State went like 8-4 one year, and they were able to overcome that and come back and win the national title this year. So that's Let me see here. So I do have a Patreon question from a buddy who's actually a friend of mine. I was like, bro, you don't have to use the Patreon. You just text me. So he was like, what does it say that Boggs is probably going to be your third receiver? And I was like, look, I think Boggs has somewhat limited physical upside, but he also is a guy who's run a million routes in his career, played a ton of 7-on-7, was like super productive in high school, and you're playing college football. And not even college football where you're like, yeah, the expectation this year is the playoff. Like if the guy can help you, cool.
Yeah.
I'm not running the NFL combine. I don't know if that kid's going to go to the NFL. Like I think the athletic testing stuff that you could see probably suggests that that's going to be he's going to have to work. Everybody works real hard for it, but he's probably going to have to work extra hard for it because he's not somebody who runs all that fast. But I mean, if he's competent, they have so many of these upside guys on the roster who are kind of moonshots. I don't blame them for taking it, but that's a little more something you can do when you're chasing a championship as opposed to just like trying to like not lose your job. So if he's the third best guy, yeah, it's a commentary on what you have on offense in some ways, certainly, but also you might need him.
Look, I'm going to say what I said before I ever went to a practice, okay? Because it's not fair to me to go to practice wearing the Battles In hat and then jump on the Nolecast and be like, "Oh, let me
Right.
tell y'all about a bunch of stuff that happened at practice, particularly since it's closed to media," right? That's not professional or whatever else you want to say. But having been to practice, I can only repeat what I've said on this podcast before that. This dude is just a football player, man. I mean, he is. It's ironic that we were talking about Dalvin Cook and Devonta Freeman. You watch the playoffs. Devonta Freeman's running for like 276 yards or stuff like that. It's crazy. Okay, I know it's 2A or whatever, but dude, what Boggs did at Cocoa is crazy. He's got the state semifinal game where where Mickey Ficky's already done 280 yards by halftime or whatever.
Right.
I mean, the guy is a freaking football player. He gets in space. He makes catches. Look, I understand the physical limitations, but I also understand that we're talking about a sport that has some level of nuance and just being at the right place at the right time and making a catch and making a cut. I don't think he's a guy,
especially in the slot.
It's particularly where he plays, and that there's a lot of feel for it. There's a lot of feel for space. It's almost like, when you look at basketball and you get to see a guy that's 6'9", but leading the league in rebounds or whatever, it's because there's an intuitive aspect to sports. And he has that. I don't think he's a guy that's going to catch a ball at the 21, put his foot in the ground and take it 79 yards YAC. Okay. But he is going to put his foot in the ground and get you another 6 or 7 as well. He's not a sprinter, but he's not a non-athlete either. I mean, the guy has some special traits. And he's a fit for the system, man. I mean, yes, he committed to Ohio State, but there's a reason why Gus recruited him as hard as he did at UCF. I think Boggs is going to be somebody that this fan base is very excited about for many years to come.
Also, like Ohio State is a program where we have seen the guys who can't start there go elsewhere and play well. Like, think about Jamison Williams. Okay. Pretty sure Alabama was real happy to have him that year that they ended up losing to Georgia in the Natty, but they would not have beaten Georgia in the SEC championship game had they not had them, right? Like he couldn't really see the field for Ohio State. And was he a first rounder for the Lions? Like if it was any other team, I guess, than Ohio State that was kind of like, we're good, man, which is how I understood that to have happened, right? at least as per the terms and whatnot, then I'd kind of be like, really? But Ohio State receiver wise is they're just picking and choosing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got like super, super accomplished dudes who just can't see the field there. And they go elsewhere and they do play and play pretty well. So, yeah, I'm like, dude, he might be one of the better slot receivers in the ACC immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's something.
Yeah,
I'm excited about that.
I think the early returns on all those signing day guys are pretty good, man. Defensive tackle. I think people are going to be excited to see a piece of clay like that. The kid from Georgia, the kid from Greensboro.
Kevin Wynn,
Boggs. We'll see what Chroma is when he gets here in a month.
Like there are certain guys,
Shamar Arno. I mean,
yeah,
your signing day late ads, early returns are very positive.
There are certain guys that got hyped by the staff after practice, and I was like, that gives me pause. I'm not gonna lie, because like 7 months ago, I saw those dudes not stand out against high schoolers in camp settings, and maybe like not be amazing. But like Boggs ain't one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Boggs can play. I think the only real question with him is like eventual upside. But look, like, Miami receiver, white kid,
Restrepo.
Yes. So Restrepo doesn't get drafted
Mm-hmm.
because he ran like 4.8. Titans damn sure snapped him up immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like your relationship with quarterback receiver relationship for slot is so important, and like spatial awareness and something like that. Slot is one where kind of like athletic testing matters less.
Right.
And also, we're not running the NFL draft here.
Right.
I mean, you're literally running like one of the most college-y of college offenses you could possibly run. Right. So, like, far be it from us to question the archetype of some of these receiver positions.
Yeah. Apologies to you and apologies to Matt Williams or Matt Lewis or Matt Thompson. Even better. I think I might have just stepped on the middle of our Madso ad read there. So apologies to that. But no, those guys are fantastic. They've been longtime supporters of the Nolecast. I'm a big fan of the Social Kitchen up on the north side of town. But Madso Township and the getting to be venerable Charlie Park are all great options anytime you're in Tallahassee.
No doubt about it.
And it's cool. We've been doing this for, I don't know, however long we started this podcast, 2010, 29, whatever. We still have people that go up to Matt and are like, hey, I'm coming. I heard about this place on the Nolecast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's great, man. That's awesome.
It kind of does stamp it as like one of the places you got to go visit.
Yeah.
When you get back to Tallahassee, and for every person that comes to 5, 6, 7 ball games a year, there's still the guy taking his family back up for the first time since he left campus 15 years ago.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Awesome. You got anything else this week?
No, man, I think this is good. This is a good, honest back and forth. Not that we ever have a scripted show, but we literally had nothing. We were just like, hey, we haven't talked in a while. Let's talk tonight. So
and we don't like forcing it.
You got a little bit of Ken Griffey Jr. talk there at the beginning, but no, good stuff. Good stuff, man.
Awesome, man. Well, I will I'll get this up. What should we title this? What's the harm?
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty good.
All right. Cool, man. Get some sleep.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Closed. See you, buddy.